Greetings and good fortune, ye lords and legends of lore. James Golden, at your service. And here on Blacklist Redacted, we like to crack open the tomes of madness and see what makes these monsters tick. If you've been following along, you know that the recent topic of discussion are Prometheans and their tremendous pilgrimage to craft within themselves a mortal soul and thus become redeemed. But what type of mystical alchemy are they performing? And what exactly is a refinement? Well, Blacklist Redacted, let's get into it. Animated by divine fire, shambling through life in search of meaning and release from their torment, Prometheans are a troubled lot. They exude disquiet, they spoil the land, and the crux of it all is that in order to gain the power necessary to become mortal, they'll make everything a whole lot worse before it gets even a fraction of a bit better. But if they do nothing, their azothic fire will gutter and die after only 100 years, and they along with it. And so Prometheans needed to refine. Alchemy, interestingly enough, that world-spanning traditional practice that has inspired science just as much as mysticism, gave the created a much-needed language with which to discuss their existence. It afforded the created names for the stages of transformation their bodies and Azoth went through, and operations that explicitly stated not only how a Promethean was transformed, but how one was redeemed. In addition to alchemy, the classical doctrine of elements plays a key role in the birth of a Promethean, and also to some degree the personality of the created being. Air is likened to intellect and reason, manifested by voice and song, while earth is associated with touch, grounded in sensation and the wisdom of the body. Fire, as one might guess, represents willpower, determination, and focus, while water is likened to emotion, passion, drive. Then there's spirit, tied to the unseen world, to intuition, and the supernatural. The language of alchemy and the elements, Prometheans added the study of humors. Medieval malpractice by all modern accounts, it nevertheless served as an accurate description of Promethean facilities. The four humors, choleric, melancholic, phlegmatic, and sanguine, were each descriptive of Promethean temperaments and linked to elements and organs in the body. Choleric humor was linked to yellow bile and the element of fire stored in the liver, while melancholic humor, associated with black bile and the element of earth, was stored in the lungs. The phlegmatic humor, tied to phlegm and water, was stored in the gallbladder, while the sanguine humor, associated with blood, was stored in the spleen. Prometheans add a fifth humor, ectoplasmic, corresponding to spirit and stored in the pineal gland. Thus was born the language and body of understanding that Prometheans needed to not only track their existence, but to transform it. The whole of created existence, from waking up on the slab to one day attaining mortality, is a quest through Saturnine night, an alchemical term, meaning the dark night of the soul. Prometheans know they don't have a soul, but they suffer through this dark night nonetheless, believing and struggling that one day their base matter will be refined enough to see the new dawn. And thus, we come to refinements. Throughout recorded and unrecorded history, Prometheans have developed unique answers for the problem of their unfinished natures. Now able to use language to describe their exotic situations, Prometheans began the construction and instruction of those callings that would become known as refinements. Each refinement is akin to a discipline, developed to tame the divine fire within oneself. A practice of the mind, body, and spirit, refinements are alchemical operations designed to work upon the metal or substance of a Promethean's existence. The goal is, as always, to ignite a little bit of fire, a flame within that soul, and fan it into an ever-burning blaze. Prometheans are not locked into refinements once they begin them. At different stages of their lives, Prometheans often practice different refinements, but while committed, they must give themselves over fully to the lessons and operations within, or see that spark fail to ignite. And there are many refinements, more than I'll cover today, but for now, let's explore the 5 most practiced refinements: gold, copper, iron, mercury, and tin. Aurum, the refinement of gold, mortality. Nickname, the Mimics. Imagine standing without a soul in the parking lot of a vast arena. You can hear them, the mass of humanity, chattering excitedly, full of life and energy. What are they excited for? Music? What does that bring them? You don't know, but you long to find out. They passed you in droves, eyes to the spectacle before them. You're eager to join them, but your hands contain no oils nor heat. They will not sweat for this. Perhaps by getting closer, by walking among them as they sing, by learning the rhythm of their dance, you will get to know them, and thusly, yourself. Prometheans do not have the luxury of a traditional upbringing. Even if their creator stuck around to teach them, the lessons are those of a flawed existence, truths mined from the experiences of an incomplete and fractured soul. Where then is the created to obtain the years of culture necessary to move fluidly throughout mortal society? How can a being with no life experience come to understand mortality? These questions fueled the first Prometheans to walk this path and led to the creation of gold as a refinement. The origins of Aurum are lost, but many are familiar with its most famous tale, that of the progenitor, Frankenstein's monster, who sought to understand humanity, and in doing so moved to fit in amongst them, only to bring it to ruin. Many feel that the path of Aurum is doomed from the start, but there are other tales that paint a more optimistic view of the refinement. For instance, in some of the stories of Pygmalion and his created wife Galatea, they say that they were happy, despite the supernatural nature of their relationship. Practitioners of Aurum tend to either begin their pilgrimage in gold fascinated by the forbidden fruit of mortals, or near the end of their journeys, when the study of people proves a necessity. Prometheans born near large cities or populations may gravitate towards Aurum more naturally, or out of a survival need to fit in. Created who have suffered at the hands of mortals might scoff at this refinement, but that's only until a mortal touches their heart in some way. After all, disquiet is not intrinsic to mortals, but it is to Prometheans. Their reaction to the created is not reason enough to avoid them, the mimics say, for in order to transcend one's artificial nature, one must have a complete understanding of humanity. Prometheans on this path may be called mimics, but the goal isn't just to imitate humanity, it's to understand it. To accomplish this, they do their best to find communities where they can move in discreetly, where they won't be recognized for what they are immediately, where they can find jobs that won't be noticed or missed. As part of a branded throng, an Aurum can help other Prometheans understand humanity as best they can, aiding them with blending in and even with their dealings with other humans. They can also help the created with their own humanity, at what level of understanding they currently possess, asking questions that relate to people, and teaching human philosophies that they've learned that correlate to that Promethean's refinement. Aurums emphasize understanding before practice. To gain any real knowledge from human behavior, one must understand it and others before self. That second one is admittedly a bit complicated. You see, many Aurums feel that self-improvement is difficult to fruitless, as they've no real way to measure their moral or mortal value. So they advocate growth by focusing on others. Yet interpretations of such lessons can lead Prometheans to some interesting decisions. Murder! Whew. Aware of the danger of their refinement, mimics explore the transmutation's deception and mesmerism, supernatural abilities that allow them to blend in and control susceptible minds. Through these, they are able to pursue hints and secret meanings in places like religious organizations or on large campus schools, where humans gather en masse to pursue knowledge. Practitioners of Aurum tend to develop skills in academics, persuasion, and streetwise, though truthfully, all manner of social skills are useful. To avoid the hazards of their refinement, many also develop the fundamentals of brawl, firearms, and weaponry. To round out their arsenal, many also invest in computers and politics, with specialties in navigation of the internet or current events. Cuprum, the refinement of copper. Self. Nickname, the Pariahs. Imagine, you exit a crumbling mine, miles from the nearest town, sequestered and forgotten in abject desolation. You walk in silence, turning your thoughts over and over. When you finally do reach town, you do the work that no one else will. The dirty jobs. The dirty work. One day, someone will ask you to stay. They'll ask you for a drink, for a beer. They will thank you for tending the graves on the outskirts of town. Then you'll know that you can stop this bout of self-imposed isolation. But not before. Not before. Prometheans on the refinement of copper focus on the self, not in an egotistical manner, but to learn about the mutability of one's flesh and the myriad sensations of the world. By turning inward, the pariah aims to live in concert with nature, and in doing so, investigate the effects of torment. They seek the solution to something precious: how to exist in a world that rejects them. The Kupram believe that the world shapes them as necessary. Every experience molds them into the being they're supposed to be. It's a very go with the flow, follow the vibes, path of least resistance type ideology. After all, copper is soft and mutable, and a Promethean who wishes to excel on the path of Kupram must take these traits inward in order to survive. The refinement of Kupram is often confused with going to the wastes, a Promethean practice of self-induced isolation and near hibernation. In that state, a created neither ages nor moves, shutting down bodily systems and Azoth until they are ready to leave their dormancy. Kupram is not that, though there are certainly similarities. No, Kupram is much more. In hardship, enlightenment, in isolation, truth. And there are stories of Kupram that you know and many more that you don't. When Frankenstein's monster fled civilization and humanity for the Arctic, many practitioners of Kupram say that he was practicing that new refinement, Kupram. Just as many say that he was fleeing for the wastes, fed up with humanity and over it all. When it comes to progenitors, who could really say? Another tale of Kupram speaks of Olgin, first of the Riven Prometheans, who wandered into the Siberian waste after murdering his creator Tengri. They say he allowed his disquiet to guide him, seeking answers in his torment. Whenever he felt himself grow closer to nature, he altered his path ever so slightly. In this manner, he circled the entire globe, one day returning back to that sacred starting point. There, he resurrected his creator Tengri as a Promethean of the Olgin lineage. Kupram comes to most Prometheans at some point during their pilgrimage. The constant hatred and rejection of the world becomes too much. While some created go to the wastes under such conditions, others retreat only so much as they need to, shunning human contact and instead opening themselves to the world around them. Many turn off their thoughts and feelings and wonder where they will. The Promethean who chooses this path is choosing Kupram, whether they know it or not. Sometimes the choice is made for them, as enemies and aggressors can drive a Promethean far from civilization, and in exile, amongst the silence and the trees, they find Kupram waiting. In some ways, Kupram shares philosophies with Taoism and Buddhism. Common ground is found in tenets such as seek the path of least resistance, and teachings that the physical body is ultimately inferior to the spiritual. Towards that end, copper practitioners become skilled at sensing danger via the sensorium transmutations, as well as redesigning their bodies to protect themselves through the metamorphosis transmutations. These Pyros field supernatural abilities enable the Kupram to live alone in imperfect harmony. Despite peaceful desires, Kupram is not necessarily a refinement of pacifism. Practitioners will fight to defend themselves, but only when there's no other option. And to such aware Prometheans, there's almost always another option. Even when faced with growing disquiet, many pariahs simply just move on to mitigate the effects before they worsen. They know that mortals hold no sway in their reaction to disquiet, that it is simply a facet of life, one which the Promethean must navigate with compassion and grace. Kupram emphasizes a few choice lessons: live in this world and point the way, do not lead. These tenets form the foundation of Kupram philosophy, teaching the practitioner to open their senses to the wider world and instruct rather than command. Copper can only stretch so far before it snaps, and in the same way, Kupram Prometheans can go mad with isolation if left alone too long. For this reason, despite the nickname pariahs, practitioners of Kupram often join throngs, serving as scouts and sentries, keeping the others safe through their vast powers of perception. On their journeys, practitioners often pick up skills such as athletics and merits such as meditative mind, necessary for the study of Kupram transmutations, which emphasize knowledge of one's own natural biorhythms. Beyond that, a Promethean on the path of Kupram will develop skills as necessary, maybe in academics or science, sometimes even crafts, expression, or weaponry, whatever is necessary for this Promethean to achieve the type of transformation they desire. Ferrum, the refinement of iron. Corpus, nickname, the Titans. You hang upside down from chains in a condemned dockside warehouse. Your tormentors, the night shift of a local cartel you stumbled purposefully into. They've been beating your body bloody for what felt like hours. Finally, the brutes back off, their chests heaving with effort, their eyes wide with fear. Their crowbars are slick with dead man's blood and yellow bile, and other things that have leaked out of your dead body. "He's still smiling," one of them yells. "Why is he still smiling?" You hadn't realized you still were. They break bones, but you can heal those. They stripped flesh, but not enough. There are answers that you came here for, limitations you sought to discover. You hear the metal as they load their guns, and your smile widens. Finally, some answers. Let's be real. Who doesn't want to be strong? Let's get realer. It sucks to feel weak. A weak body can be broken down and destroyed. If the soul is the most important thing in a Promethean's manufactured life, shouldn't it be housed in a body that is capable of protecting it? Created who take up the path of iron come to this realization. Through practice, self-discipline, and trial by ordeal, they will forge the vessel needed to see their pilgrimage through. Rooted in warrior culture ideals the world over, the refinement of Corpus teaches a Promethean to be strong. The Farum refer to themselves as Titans, and the nickname is apt. Much like the godlike beings who preceded the Olympian gods and warred against them, the practitioners of Farum are mighty. Their inspiration hails from all across the world, noting how Odin hung from a tree and did not die, how Samson suffered at the hands of Delilah. Great are those who are beaten, tortured, and broken, but emerge stronger for the effort, wisdom gained from the suffering of flesh. Not all Prometheans come to Farum in their time. Following in the footsteps and spiritual understanding of human beings, many philosophies still teach that the physical is inferior to the spiritual. More cautious Prometheans feel that honing one's body for destruction can only lead to disaster. Still, there are those who have witnessed or heard tell of the glory that can be found in battle and wish to see it for themselves, while others simply need to learn to defend themselves. For those who lack the aggression and bitterness for Stanum, Farum is a welcome alternative. The body is slow to change, however, and iron, it's a long and difficult road. The would-be Titan must possess both patience and determination to find success on this road. There are those who have walked this path for decades without achieving perfection. Such a thing might be possible, perfection, but if it is, only the rare few have achieved it. Every human culture throughout history has had some form of warrior class. Whether assassins, noble protectors, or religious crusaders, the body is given a great deal of respect and reverence when trained for battle. There are mysteries to unravel in such a nuance. Is this respect because only a few are capable of enduring the rigorous training of a warrior? Or is it because the weaker members of society must be protected? Even in modern times, when service to a military is no longer seen as above rebuke, there's still a quiet respect. Because even when a society condemns the actions of its warriors, they still need them. Farum practitioners often see themselves as the shield of their loved ones, the spear pointed against the monsters of Flex. They think nothing of being shot, beaten, stabbed, crushed, because all of that can be healed. But with such reckless ability comes a need for mindfulness, lest they act in manners that are monstrous and damaging to the soul. The lessons taught in Farum are straightforward. Untempered iron is brittle and the body is complex but must be understood. To pursue Farum, one must possess focus. Perfection will not come without constant practice, and one does not become a warrior simply by attacking random opponents. The goal is to seek the tempered kiss of fire to the wrought iron of the vessel, and through hard work and determination, see oneself molded into something of worth. Training matters in Farum. It is the cornerstone of understanding. Rigorous repetition forms the framework for a body capable of anything. It also lends itself to the study of the transmutation corporeum and vitality, superhuman abilities which allow a Promethean unmatched hardiness and titanic strength. Paired with such gifts, Farum practitioners also study athletics, brawl, and weaponry. Fighting styles are encouraged but difficult to come by without proper mentorship. To round out their understanding of the human being and its many workings, many Farum also develop skills in medicine, academics, and science. Mercurius, the refinement of Quicksilver, Pyros, nickname, Ophidians, serpents. Imagine enough electricity to power a city, glowing like a bulb in the night. They lock it behind fences and cameras, but they can't keep you away. It calls to you, the Pyros within the power plant, generated and never noticed, never appreciated for what it really is. You press your face to the ground, and you feel the electrical hum pass through your body. In your eyes, the Pyros spreads beneath the city like veins encased in cables. The police will arrive soon, you know, to chase you away. And they always do. But you'll return. You always do. The Pyros calls. Serpents are fluid and flexible. So too are the practitioners of Mercurius. But this is not so much a physical trait as a mental and spiritual one. Some believe the serpent nickname is in reference to the Ouroboros, the alchemical symbol portraying the snake eating its own tail, which represents completion, wholeness, and infinity. Others say it is because the craftiness of the Ophidians, the cunning, the canny, the sneakiness that many of their number exhibit. Certainly their namesake, which comes from the Roman messenger god Mercury, indicates beings known for their skills in tact, argument, and speed. Stories tell tale of Ophidians whose quest for understanding of Pyros led to both salvation and ruin equally. One Promethean, fashioned from the bodies of the beautiful dead in the tradition of Galateo, was animated with intent to become a lover, but his mind was filled with questions about the nature of beauty. Was it merely the skin and flesh and body that was beautiful, or did beauty extend deeper to the humors and spirit beneath? He spent so much time examining these mysteries in his own reflection that he was easily enslaved by a sorceress. Today, we remember Narcissus not for his questing mind, but as the embodiment of vanity. Those on the path of Quicksilver often consider their refinement to be an advanced state, one not easily undertaken. Few Prometheans begin with the refinement of Mercurius. Usually it takes time to come to grips with one's existence, to accept that the body moves absent true life, that one could heal with jolts of electricity that would kill a mortal. After all, one cannot become embroiled with the mysteries of Pyros if one does not even know what the divine fire is. Some come to Mercurius when the other refinements cease to bear fruit, or when those refinements fail to answer certain questions. Questions such as, what is the divine fire? What is its connection to electricity? How much of this fire can a Promethean absorb before the body quits? Is there a limit? What is a Kashmalium? What is a firestorm? How much divine fire can a Promethean manipulate? When a Promethean is finally knowledgeable enough and ready to ask these questions, then they are properly ready to enter the refinement of Quicksilver. All that said, Mercurius will likely not be the last refinement a Promethean follows. There's more to the soul than the animating fire and fuel that moves the form, and when a Promethean realizes that, they're likely to move on. Mercurius, in this way, acts as a stepping stone between Ferum and Stanum, or Aurum and Cuprum, the bridge of Pyros between the physical and the spiritual. Ophidians are mentally flexible, able to find unique solutions to everyday problems. That flexibility extends to their morality as well, which can lead to some interesting experiences. Murder, arson, acts of torture, each is viewed pragmatically, with universal consideration to the benefits and consequences of all those decisions. Morality is not the primary focus of the refinement of Mercurius. The objective is to understand Pyros. Towards that end, serpents will continue to learn and experiment, divining the differences between the Azoth and the soul the Promethean is building, if indeed there is one. Practitioners of Quicksilver observe many lessons, but two of the most prominent are the soul is energy and know thyself. Ophidians hope to crack the mystery of the soul and discover its properties. They move through trial and error, seeking knowledge beyond conventional understanding. To be able to experiment so recklessly, one must be able to return to a sort of neutral, inflexible center, one where they are able to witness and ponder the various extremes and outcomes. Thus, Ophidians must know themselves, and in doing so, swallow their own tail, understanding the limits to which one will or will not go in pursuit of their goals. Ophidians are skilled in the transmutations Alchemicus and Vulcanus, which allow them to analyze and recombine substances and manipulate the divine fire for destructive or altruistic purposes. They are often skilled in science, with specialties in chemistry, biology, physics, metallurgy. It is no surprise that the serpents often lurk among the underbelly of society, where drug use is common and experimentation often goes unreported. Most Ophidians have skills in medicine, while others, who prefer to study angels and firestorms, might be more skilled in occult. Finally, politics, expression, and larceny help a serpent navigate the social trouble their eccentricities are likely to land them in.
Stanum, the refinement of tin. Torment. Nickname, the Furies.
You've done your best to walk the path of gold. To be good. To fit among them. Close enough to see their fake smiles, far enough that it shouldn't have mattered. Or so you thought. It was a great location. A house on the outskirts of town, condemned by the people of the city and left to rot, not worth the effort to repair or demolish it. You did your best to fit in. To get a job that nobody would notice or miss. To learn the culture, the intricacies. You prayed your disquiet would simply flow into the rotten house or into the woods behind, but it didn't, and you knew it wouldn't. It always goes for the people, and they came for you, like you secretly knew they would. They burned your home thinking that you were inside, heedless of the homeless squatters that called the basement home, heedless of the barking of their dogs. You tried to be good, but you can no longer deny what you are. Vengeance stirs the heart to ignition, and Pyros answers. Tomorrow, you'll discover what truths can be mined from torment. Nicknamed for the vengeful spirits of Greek mythology that whipped and tormented their targets, not allowing them rest, Furies is an apt but ironic title. For those in Stanum are equally deprived of rest, consumed as they are by a need for fury and vengeance. Frankenstein's monster, wrought by torment, is an iconic figure associated with rage and destruction. The Golem of Prague, another such figure, who went on a rampage after his creator failed to put him to sleep. These are cautionary tales of Stanum, told by Prometheans of all lineages, but there's an element of truth in each that cannot be avoided. No matter how great, cautionary, or noble, nearly every created follows the refinement of torment at some point in their lives. Some find tin early, the first monstrous truth and path presented to the Promethean. Sometimes this is due to the absence or cruelty of a creator. Others experience horrid mobs and the cruelty of disquiet far too early in their Promethean lives. When this happens, the path of Stanum offers vengeance, and many wounded Prometheans find such a prospect appealing. But what does it mean to embrace torment? How can a Promethean engage in monstrous practices and still hope to find humanity? Despite what practitioners of other refinements might say, Furies walk the fine line between wisdom and abandon. There is a goal beyond vengeance. A Fury strives to understand torment and disquiet, but with a different intent than Cuprum. Torment is part of a Promethean's existence. There is no escaping disquiet. There is no choice to the Fury, but to accept these facets of life. The core philosophy of the refinement, though not all stop to think about it so deeply, is that in the midst of hatred, fear, and frustration, there is wisdom and clarity. The perceived goal of the refinement by outsiders is that of vengeance and self-indulgence, but Furies seek wisdom in excess and the indulgence of destructive behaviors. This is rarely explained to newcomers, and that is simply because the wisdom of tin must be earned. It cannot be bestowed. Stanum derived their namesake from tin, associated with the planet Jupiter, Roman name of the god Zeus, who chained Promethean to a rock for his theft of the fires of creation. Now and forever condemned to daily torture, Zeus, and therefore Jupiter, is a symbol of torment to Prometheans worldwide, but those in Stanum particularly. Furies observe many lessons in destruction, but two resonate above the others. In torment, truth, and forgive nothing, for nothing is forgiven. The first is an exploration of the urges that drive a Promethean, of the imbalance of humors and the powers of torment, versus the conscious mind. They are guided by torment, taking stock of feelings and intuition and the effects of disquiet on the world around them. The second lesson holds elements of fatalism, in that Furies feel justified with turning the hatred of the world back in on itself. The world shows no favor to the Promethean, so the Promethean shows no favor to the world. Forgiveness is a lie. Those on the path of torment practice the transmutations disquietism and electrification, superhuman abilities that allow them to spread their disquiet to unsuspecting souls and weaponize their torment into arcs of lightning that can destroy or heal. Violence may be a part of a Fury's existence, but revenge reigns supreme on the path of Stanum. Thus, many practitioners develop skills that aid such endeavors, not just the combat skills needed to execute their targets. Crafts and stealth, reflecting an affinity for machines and stalking, play a role in the orchestration of large-scale plans, while social skills, not surprisingly, fall to the wayside, with intimidation the sole exception. Finally, Prometheans who speak of the more philosophical aspects of torment might explore occult or academics. These 5 refinements, though the most prominent, are not the only refinements to exist. Some are so far removed from the path as to be considered heresy, while others are yet merely rare and hidden, their practitioners scattered in few, their tomes precious and hoarded. While many instinctively follow gold, copper, iron, tin, and mercury, still others seek greater mysteries and enlightenment, found only on the paths less traveled. Be they Frankenstein, Galateid, Golem, Osiren, Olgin, or other, Prometheans walk their paths through Saturnine night as carefully as they can, seeking answers in one lifetime that have eluded philosophers for generations. But we have not fully discussed the lineages of Prometheans that walk our world, have we? Not officially, at least. Join me next time as we unravel these terrifying lineages available to those who would work the divine fire. My name is James Golden, and it is my privilege to sit with you in the dark discussing tales not fit for the light. Until we meet again, remember, bright may be the day, but sanguine is the night.